Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And now live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., it's the Sunday Evening Masterclass. And now our chief instructor, best-selling author, and lecturer, the Reverend Dr. Charlette Manning.
Good evening. Good evening. Is that applause I hear in the background? Good evening to...
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. And welcome to Sunday Evening Masterclass. I am Reverend Dr. Charlette Stokes Manning, and I thank you for joining us here tonight. You know, we say that this is an opportunity for us to have spiritual conversations and to look at today's current events through a spiritual lens. We had such a amazing notes and text messages and emails and everything, Michael and I both, from Dr. Phil last week, that we were going to have Dr. Phil back on tonight to do Sacred Relationships 2.0. But with all the things that are going on in the last 24 hours, I thought this was a really great opportunity for us to have a spiritual conversation about the events that are going on in the world today, the last 20, in this country, particularly in Kentucky and Illinois and Missouri and Mississippi and Oklahoma. So we wanted to reach out and talk a little bit about that. And Michael, who I asked if he would join me. You know, we are now considered on New Thought Media Network, on the New Thought Media Network, to be the Regis and Kathy Lee of New Thought Media. So I asked Michael if he would join me tonight. Yes.
I will join you when you call me in. But let me just say this.
Yes.
I don't think we can use Regis and Kathy Lee or whatever until we get paid as such.
Well, that's true, but you know, we are. Whenever Michael starts talking to me about payment, I tell him that we are abundantly paid in grace and faith and love. With that, our petty cash vault is full because we do what we love to do, and we share. That's right. So it will manifest itself from the ether into that cash kind of thing before we know it. So it's coming, my brother.
It's coming. So I'll get out of the way and let you let the star shine.
Yes, that's right. So there's a lot going on in the world, and for years, I think I've done sermons on this, and I have certainly talked to a lot of people about the consciousness of this planet is representing itself by the energy of its inhabitants. So the consciousness of the planet is reflecting the nature of its inhabitants. And, you know, back in the day, you know, well, the Bible says, as you sow, so shall you reap. Science says what you put out, you're going to get back. And my mother used to say, what goes around comes around. So we live in a world of cause and effect. Everything we put out is going to come back. Everything is about energy. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to break down some of the scientific variations of energy along with the spiritual components of energy. And there's a duality in everything. So as above, so below, to the left goes the right, and all of that. There is a duality that goes in all of that. So we are affected depending upon where we fall on the spectrum. We are affected. So we will say, just as an example, we're talking about voting rights for many, 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 many years, from the 60s up into basically the present moment. And even though there has been activity on how to minimize voting rights in this country, we were in the polarity, we were shifted into that space where voting rights was an order of the day. If you violated someone's voting rights, you were able to challenge those rights on many different levels. As recently as Eric Holder having when they gutted the Voting Rights Act. So we know that, as in one vein, we see that there is a joy and happiness about the changes or the shifts that are happening, whereas we now feel that there is a violation of our constitutional rights. So the polarity is happening, or the pendulum is shifting into that other direction. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But I think, and please, let me preface all of this by saying these are my views and Pastor Michael's views. These are not the views of New Thought Media Network. This is me giving you my opinion and what I think about how the shift in consciousness is creating a lot of the climate change that we are experiencing right now. But, I wanted to also, before we get into this conversation, I wanted to be able to acknowledge the people that have been affected in all 5 of these states. And I talked a little bit this morning on before I went out for my walk. I walk every day, and I do these little nuggets in the morning. And I want to first say that I believe that all things happen for a reason. And it's a wake-up call for us on many, many occasions that we need to shift our consciousness and look at things from a different point of view sometimes. But there was a lot of loss. There were miracles that occurred, people that were saved, people that were rescued, but there was a lot of life that was lost. There were a lot of values that were lost, particularly in Kentucky, but as well as the other states that were affected by this catastrophic, what's the other word? Now, of course, the word is escaping me, but I mean, this was a tornado at a magnitude of, cataclysmic. That's the word I'm trying to think of. That it is beyond the imagination that a tornado, 200 miles of effect, that it was shooting debris 22,000 feet into the air. So this was a wake-up call for certain, for many, many, many of us. There was lives lost, as I said. There was damage. It is going to take not days and months. It's going to take years for these communities to rebound. But yes, They will, because that is who we are. Now, it would be really, really great if we learned some lessons from what occurred. But I first want to, before we get into all of this, I wanted to say a prayer for all those that have been affected by this. And whether you live in those 5 states or not, I cannot imagine how you could not be affected visually, energetically, spiritually, just by visually seeing what occurred in this place. So let's just take a moment to take a breath and go within. Place your hand over your heart if you feel so inclined. Whatever and however you connect to the divine I am that is within you. And I just say, dear God, we ask you to please bless those who have lost loved ones. We ask you to receive those who have made the supreme sacrifice of giving up their lives. We ask you to heal those that have been injured and have them have a speedy recovery. And we ask for you to help us find the peace of your love in the midst of all this chaos. We may not understand why, dear God, but we know who you are, and by your grace, you will see us through. So we thank you, God. And so it is. So I just want to send that prayer out for all of you who are listening, all of you who have been affected mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually by this. And I want you to remember, no matter what happens in this world, no matter what, God, there's always a place and a space for you to see the glory of God through all of this. So, having said that, I was talking this morning before I went out on my walk, and this past, I think, was it Thursday? Bob Dole's funeral was Thursday, and we had Colin Powell's a few weeks ago. And, one thing I am proud to be an American. I love Lynn Greenwood sang the song at the very end of Bob Dole's funeral. And he sang that song, I'm proud to be an American. And I don't care warts and all, no matter what we go through or how we go through it in this country. There is no place on earth I would rather be than America, in America, and to be an American. Now, again, there are a lot of things in this country that we need to reckon. And I do believe that until we are able to face some of the demons of our past, we will continue to express that negative energy out into the world. So it's interesting because as I'm sharing this morning, I was talking about Bob Dole's funeral, and I think it was either one of his staff people that did a poem. And it's a poem that I've used many times when I've done going home ceremonies or, funerals or transition ceremonies. And it is called The Dash. And the dash is that line between your birth into this world, and your death or your exit this world. And the dash represents the contribution that you make while you're here. And I thought to myself, with all the things that are happening in the world today, are we proud of the dash that we are using in this life? So I was reading my horoscope this morning before I went out for my walk. And one of the things that I had said to a friend of mine a couple of days ago is I felt really irritated for some reason, or agitated. It was like there was a disturbance in the force, and I could feel this something that was taking over me. And I read my horoscope and it said, you could feel agitated or irritable today. You might feel that these emotions are instigated by outside influences, which could cause you to retreat from the source of irritation. You might consider, however, that it could be your own sensitivity causing you to react excessively to otherwise normal events. And rather than go through this whole thing, when there is a disturbance in the force and you are an energetic being that is sensitive to the energies of the outside world, and most of us, if we tune into and tap into the oneness that we have with the Creator, we will see, some people say you're psychic or you're gifted or you got vision or all this other stuff. We are all created to tap into the oneness that is God. Now, when there is a disturbance in that force, you can feel that in your body. So as we talk about energy from a scientific point of view, we look at energy in a way that we can't see it, taste it, touch it, or smell it, but we know it's like you walk into a room and you feel something. Ooh, what was that? You feel a negative energy or a negative force in that. And that just takes me to one of my favorite movies. Again, I'm a Star Wars freak. Star Wars, Star Trek, all of that. But in Star Wars, they've talked about, Luke felt it, Obi-Wan felt it, Darth Vader felt it, the disturbance in the force. Yet there is a power and a force that is greater than yourself. That force we may call God, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Yahweh, Jehovah, omnipresent, omniscient, whatever it is you call it. There is a force greater in yourself. And when you tap into that force, you are able to connect to the energy that is not only within you, but that is manifested outside of you. So I'm going to have Michael come in and join us after we take a quick break. And we're going to talk about energy, the flow of energy, and how it is affecting the consciousness of this planet. As we are spilling out, we are actually influencing the climate change that we've been talking about. So this is Sunday Evening Masterclass. I am Dr. Charlette Stokes Manning, your teacher for this evening here on the New Thought Media Network.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And Suze Ajay, thank you for your very generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
We're back. Oh, I think my computer just slipped off its axis there. Anywho, we're back. And Pastor Michael, are you there? Okay.
Oh, of course. I'm
I
here.
lost my computer there for a minute. It slipped off the little Dumaflachi that I have there, propping it up.
Is that a technical term, Dumaflachi?
Dumaflachi. That's when you don't know the other name to give it, so you just call it a Dumaflachi.
Okay, well, gotcha. That's a technical term. You'll have to look it up in Google.
Okay. So, you and I were talking a little bit about everything that's going on and how we are being affected energetically about this. It's so interesting. I love getting into this conversation because people really think that I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when I start talking about you want to change, as Wayne Dyer said, change the way you see the world, and the world you see will change. People don't understand that the energy that is within us is affecting the climate, that as we are expressing, the trees give us carbon, give us oxygen, and we give the trees carbon dioxide, and the cows are expressing their to the planet that's causing all of the methane. Yeah, but I mean, everything is energy, and there is a cause and effect in energy, right? And so I was reading today, it says, and I wrote this down because I wanted to look at it from, and you're more on the technical side of it, so you just pop in there. But it says, energy is the most powerful force in the universe.
Yes.
And we can't see it.
Absolutely.
Okay. In physics, energy is the quantitative property that must be transferred to a body or physical system to perform work on the body, or even to heat it. In the Karate Kid, you saw them, Mr. Miyagi, doing this when he was doing the healing on Daniel's son when he was. I mean, it is how we can move energy in our bodies. Also, is how we express energy out in the world. So that old saying that, energy changes form and moves from place to place, but the total amount doesn't change. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So what do you think about all these effects of climate change, this cataclysmic tornado in these specific areas? Because I went and I looked up the United States senators that are senators in these states. Now, I know this is where I'm going to get the mail. The MAIL, not the MALE. I'm going to get the mail.
I'm going to get called into the principal's office on Monday morning.
Absolutely. And that's why I prefaced everything by saying, this is my opinion. And, we don't even share all of the same political beliefs. But I do believe that in order for us to heal anything, you can't heal what you're not willing to reveal. So I think that this is a great teaching opportunity, don't you think?
Yes, and let's point out a couple of things from the science mind perspective. And again, my viewpoints and opinions are my own also. So when we talk about the whole idea of, like, for example, what happened down in Kentucky, we don't know whether or not that there was a direct influence on that. So we don't know.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we don't know, like, for example, you were pointing out, like, with the senators and we don't know. Like, for example, I was thinking of Pat Robertson saying, well, the tornado or the hurricane's going to hit a certain place. And again, we don't know, okay, as far as the direct effect. And we know that the planet itself is heating up. We know that. And there have been many scientists on in the past few days that have said that the reason that we had such a destructive storm was because of the climate change. Now, let's take that into the metaphysics. So we know that everything, our collective thought goes into what's called race consciousness. That's what we teach in the science of mind and spirit. So again, that we have to understand that God did not do this. Okay. Let's understand that God is good. There was something that was triggered on the other side, and we don't know what that is. Okay. So again, that's why I just wanted to be real clear about that direct influence, because I don't really, even though that, and I wrote this on my Facebook page that you were saying about Rand Paul and also Mitch McConnell being from Kentucky. All right. And they have turned down in the past much of the disaster aid that has gone to other places. So now they have requested for their state disaster aid. So I think that it really does us in the reason I get, and again, I talk to and debate some of these people on Facebook. Saying, I know I do it for amusement. I'm not going to change anybody's mind, but I like seeing how people think. And to say that as far as with, they say, well, helping other people other than the military and also some basic services is just distributing the wealth to people who don't deserve it. Okay. So I think that our president is going to be bigger than the votes that have happened in the states with those two senators, and go ahead and ask for aid for them. And I think, so I think that, I think the one lesson out of this is compassion. Is how can we really show compassion to people who a lot of times oppose us? So how can we share that love that we know? How can we do that? Jesus said, don't strike back. So how can we show that love back to them? And again, I know people down in Kentucky. We have a former member who lives in Louisville, and that now Louisville, from what we understand, was not affected by the storm. The path went through mostly Western Kentucky that we know of. So, but again, it's just we need to be taking these warnings and taking them seriously about climate change. And people say, well, that's not a spiritual subject.
Well, and that's exactly why, right. Yeah. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about it, because it is, you can't have one without the other. And when you looked at, and I think the first thing that the president said was that this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. This is a human rights issue. And, you're not going to, pick up your marbles and go home because somebody in Kentucky pissed you off, and excuse the expression. And so because they pissed you off, you're not going to help them. Fortunately, we have someone in the White House now that goes beyond that, and I believe it is because of his spiritual beliefs that has enabled him to be the person that would rise above that. But again, I shifted back into this consciousness. You cannot make assumptions. None of us are free till all of us are free. Those
Yes.
people that were affected primarily in Kentucky were poor people. The majority of those people were poor white people. Okay, so when we start talking about and differentiating between who's the beneficiary, when that storm came through there, they didn't say anything about, oh, that's a white man's house. He voted for the 45. I'm going to jump over that house. That energy that went through that town, and you see what you saw leveled there, in my opinion, was consciousness, the power of consciousness awakened, negatively awakened. Okay, because there is a verse and converse side to all of this. And I believe that, and I want to read something from here in a moment, but I believe that we are giving birth to a new consciousness. I may not see it, you may not see it, but labor and delivery is dirty, it's bloody, it's painful. And everybody is affected by it. Mother Nature is affected, as is the midwives and the men that are participating in that. But when you start talking about how the effects of your behavior affects the climate change, Michael, because you are expressing that negative energy out into the world. And even though you can't see it, you can feel it. There is a disturbance in God's force.
Right.
And it's not God. I 100% agree with you. God did not do this.
Well, and again, I just, my opinion is that, again, we cannot, yes, there are, because of the pollution, not only in the atmosphere, but also the pollution within us. Yes, I think that there is some effect. Now, again, and I really want to be real careful about this. We because again, if we come off and saying, well, it's our negative consciousness that caused Kentucky, I think that we come off again as religious zealots and not understanding that there's a whole lot more complex things that are going on besides that.
This is global. This is global consciousness. And it's like you can have a viral infection that will manifest itself. It could be a kidney infection. Mm-hmm. And it will manifest itself with a blister or a boil, maybe on your back or on your, because the infection is there, it will express itself someplace else. Yes. But the key is that when the infection gets so bad, it has got to become a blister or a boil, and it's got to be lanced. So, and I'm talking about, this is global. I mean, there is no place on the planet that's not being affected by this pandemic, that's not having earth changes. So it's almost like, biblically, if you go back to scripture, when we were going through the 7 years, with the locusts and the famine and the, earth changes, none of this is new. You know what I mean? So, but we're using new millennium language to diagnose something that has occurred for millennia. Every time the have-nots begin to outnumber the haves, this is what happens. Global catastrophes.
Well, I think that also that I think the two things that they do know is that, again, that number one is that the climate scientists know that somehow or another that, again, to get that kind of catastrophic tornado action through an area like that, again, that we have not seen that before. And so what the climate scientists are saying is that this is one of the effects of global warming, that we need to take care of our mother. Okay. And it's not necessarily for you and I, but it's also for the next generations. So this is just not ours to use up. This is ours to go ahead and to nurture and to give over, hopefully in better shape, to the generations coming up. And I think that there is a shift in consciousness that's also happening. And again, like you've said, birth is messy. And that's what we're going through right now is that, the whole planet's waking up. And for people to go ahead and deny that we need to go ahead and to do something about this. Again, it's not just go out there and put up a bunch of solar panels and put up a bunch of windmills. I mean, that's part of it. But the other part needs to be, again, consciousness.
Yes.
Is that we really need to advance consciousness.
Yes.
Also. So.
Yes, absolutely. We have to change the way we treat each other. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And when someone is being a butthole, you need to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that's the last part of this segment tonight is I'm going to talk about, because forgiveness is my work. And the Course in Miracles teaches us, are you willing to see the situation differently? Reverend Sylvia said, and I'm going to do this last segment on Reverend Sylvia's sermon this morning. But what Reverend Sylvia, I have the sign on the back of my office wall that says, would it be okay? And fill in the blank. Would it be okay if this didn't turn out the way that I thought it should? Would it be okay if this decision is made and it's not in alignment with what I think? Would it be okay? Because at the end of the day, when you do your part and I do my part, Marianne Williamson taught me, when racism is no longer an issue for you, the racist will stop showing up. Well, guess what? Yes. When lack is no longer an issue for you, lack will stop showing up. All you have to do is change the word in the sentence. Would it be okay if I did not inject a negative comment or a disparaging word to someone who is being an idiot in my mind? Because they may think I'm being an idiot in their mind. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I know we have to pay some bills. I see you looking at the clock. So yeah. All right.
Robert gets on me about this.
We don't want Robert getting angry with us. So this is Sunday Evening Masterclass. I am Dr. Charlette Stokes Manning here on New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes, or being the star, let us bless our one. contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And we're back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Michael, thank you so much for joining me on that segment. And I wanted to share before I get into the forgiveness part of that. I wanted to share this book is called A Moment of Choice. And it has my beloved Reverend Sylvia Sumter is a featured writer. It's a book of essays from many different New Thought leaders, as well as Michael Beckwith is in here, Jean Houston is in here, Deepak Chopra, Greg Braden, Bill Lipton. And I wanted to read this really quickly to you. And this is by Chief Phil Lane Jr. And the chapter is called Prophecies, Dynamic Change, and a New Global Civilization. And I think this kind of answers to it. Just a couple of sentences here. It says, a growing global storm is sweeping the face of Mother Earth, and no place is protected from its cleansing, healing, and unifying power. Even with the current widespread paralysis of will that subordinates a national and personal self-interest to concerted global manipulation, a world is emerging in which all members of our human family can live in peace, harmony, and prosperity. Our primary concern right now is how to make the changes needed to transform our world so cooperation prevails and leads to the establishment of a peaceful global civilization. Now, as I said to you, Michael, and to my beloved audience, don't know if I'll get to see it, but who knows? I might. I never thought I'd get to see a woman vice president. Never thought I'd get to see a Black president. I mean, there are many things in my life that I never thought I would have the privilege of being able to see. But the glory of it all is at this stage of my life, I have come to realize most profoundly, it is what I give to this world and what the world will give back to me. So, I think it was Spider-Man that they said, much is given, much is required. Or when you want to be a divine representative of God on earth as it is in heaven, you have to be willing to love your neighbor as yourself. You have to be willing to do the things that take you out of the abyss of chaos and confusion, that you find yourself in the midst of the quiet, even in the midst of the storm, that you can find the stillness and the peace and the quiet, even in the eye of the storm. So my work has always been around forgiveness. So I just released a new book in my Forgive series, and it's called Facing Your Fears. And one of the things, the components in that is how you can be the forgiveness. You can become the forgiveness. And it was like when I was in sales school, when I worked for Xerox, my sales manager said, I want you to go out and actively pursue 100 no's. I want you to actively go out and try to sell a copier to someone you know is going to tell you no. Well, this is the same work that I try to instill in my clients, is I want you to actively go out and find someone to forgive every day. Finding forgiveness only returns you to the light and to the love that God is. So this morning, Reverend Sylvia was doing the final part of the 23rd Psalm, and it was surely goodness and mercy will travel me all the days of my life. And she was talking from a metaphysical standpoint, and I had to go back And look at this 3 times in order to be able to copy this, write this down. And I already texted her and told her that she was going to be hearing this again, but it was so important and it was so in alignment with what we're talking about tonight that I wanted to share this with you. And I want to start it out by saying, would it be okay if you chose to forgive someone rather than to torment them? Would it be okay if you just raised your hands and said, I'm not going to participate in this? Would it be okay if you just said, in the light of all eternity, love is what I prefer? So it said, you can't have forgiveness. So you can't live a good life without forgiveness. All the negative energies around you will swallow you up if you are not willing to forgive. And I simply say, release it and let it go already. Because in the light of all eternity, it really doesn't matter. Do you think for one moment those people in Kentucky are even thinking about an argument or a disagreement they may have had with their neighbor or their parent or their priest or their minister or anyone, grocery store clerk? Do you think for one moment they are focused on that? They are focused on helping one another, loving one another, taking care of and responding one to the other. So you can't have a good life without forgiveness. You cannot have peace or no peace without forgiveness. The lack of forgiveness is like a cancer. It just eats away at you. It penetrates your psyche. It interrupts your sleep. It causes dis-ease in the body. You cannot know peace without forgiveness. If you're unwilling to forgive, you will have no peace because you will be tormented by the doom and gloom and judgments and condemnations, not just that you have about someone else, but the energetic signature that you leave within your own self through the power of that non-forgiveness attitude. You cannot prosper without forgiveness. The lack of forgiveness will dam up the blocks of abundance that God has for you. While you're focused on how angry and upset you are about this, the benefits from the universe, manna from heaven, eludes you because you're spending all of your time focused on stuff that doesn't matter. If there is lack and limitation in your life, A Course in Miracles teaches us, you need to ask yourself, who have I not forgiven? You cannot love without forgiveness, because without sharing your love, you must be willing to rise above those feelings of judgment and condemnation. When you look at the light of God in someone else's eyes, that is reflecting the light of God within yourself. When you see disdain in the eyes of your neighbor, or discontent in the environment that you live in, or people who are judging you because of the color of your skin, or the way that who you love, or what religion you practice. When you look into the eyes of another human being, as Mother Teresa said, I see the face of my beloved. When you can see the face of God through the eyes and penetrate that into the soul of your being, then and only then will you know and understand true love. You cannot grow spiritually without forgiveness. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And if it was good enough for Jesus, it should be good enough for you. If Jesus could forgive even unto the cross, the last breath he took before he gave up the spirit, he asked God to forgive them. Forgive us all. When we think about how we want to evolve ourselves, we have to be willing to avoid conflict with others. And when you become a master at light and love and being drawn to that, you will see that all of that negative energy will just move right on past you. You are the light of this world. Playing small. Playing small is about succumbing to that, the energetic, egoic, dysfunctional mind that keeps you in the abyss of darkness and negativity. You have too much work to do to be focused on those things. You cannot be happy without forgiveness. You cannot be merciful and compassionate without forgiveness. And as Reverend Sylvia was sharing that this morning, one of the other things she said was, when you see and seek, I'm trying to refresh my memory. I wrote it down, but I don't have it right here with me. When you see and seek the good in everything, you will also seek and see the good in everyone. That was the aha I had this morning in that sermon. And when you can see, and this is why on my walk in the morning, I really don't connect with the human beings. I connect with the puppies. I have yet to embrace a puppy on a walk with its owner. And when I acknowledge and I say, "Good morning, puppy," that owner has to acknowledge or smile. They may not say a word. They may just go, or something like that. But I have evoked an emotion within them. It may not last but a second. It doesn't matter. I gave love to them through the eyes of that puppy. This is why goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. And these are the ingredients, the cornerstone of light and love is forgiveness. I wrote in my Release and Let Go book, I said, it is much more important. Love feels better in your body. And when you get old enough, you will understand that dis-ease creates conflict. And just like you saw that the lightning and thunder and the disruption in that tornado and the flow and the wind of all of that goes on internally. Your brain is firing like thunder and lightning all the time. All the time. You can feel when you are agitated, your stomach begins to churn and you can feel the disruption in your being. So the same thing that's going on on your inside is also going on the outside. So you want to see the universe? You're looking for the universe outside of you. Well, what you see outside is what you be inside. Okay? All the best things in life are on the other side of your fear. Will Smith said that. And if you're willing to move through your fear and embrace the light of God's love and let go of that anxiety and condemnation and all this, shift the energy of your I am to the level of the consciousness of Christ. And you will see miracles show up in your life that will blow your hair back. Dream the dream of love. Feel love not only outside of you. Love is something that is expressed from within. Be the love you seek in the world. Do the things that will generate and bring love to you. Know that you are the light of this world, and God needs you to show up in a mighty way. So next week, we're going to have Dr. Phil is going to come back and do Sacred Relationships 2.0. We're going to be the week before Christmas, so we really need to have him come and share with us. I hope that you have enjoyed this opportunities for us to share the power and the presence of energy and how energy shows up in your life. Everything you seek to become can be made manifest in the light of God's love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love God and love one another. Love each other as I have loved you. That's what Jesus asked us to do. So if we were to embrace that, just imagine what kind of world this would be. So the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. And the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, wherever I am, God is. And all is well. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you. I hope that you have a happy week, a blessed week, a week full of light and love. Go out and seek 100 people to forgive over this next week. Find forgiveness in them, and you will find a miracle within yourself. So know that I love you, I appreciate you, and I behold the Christ in you. This is Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette. I thank you for joining us here on the New Thought Media Network.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And Suze Ajay, thank you for your very generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.